Well, as promised, let's continue on our journey of the D&D 5e live stream a day video series, where we talk about what new video Dungeons & Dragons has released for the 2024 core rulebooks. Today, we're talking about the Barbarian. Now, the Barbarian is a class that, in my opinion, didn't really need much changes, if at all, and yet WotC surprised me again during the Unearthed Arcana process by actually adjusting things that I didn't think needed adjustments and improved them in a lot of ways, following along what we see with this streamlining and things of that nature, which is pretty awesome. And lo and behold, they updated the Barbarian basically all the way until the last Unearthed Arcana. Unearthed Arcana 8 actually had the Barbarian in it, which, again, I didn't really think needed much adjustments, but the adjustments they made, I very much appreciate. So we're going to have to hear what they say in this video to kind of distinguish what has been said there versus what, was in the last printed version that a lot of us have seen. And maybe there's some noticeable tweaks or adjustments there. So why don't we go ahead and give it just a couple of minutes here, and then we'll dive in to this. Thank you, Epic Randomness. I'm better, but it's more or less just like a time situation. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start the stream on a bummer. So why don't we just wait, give everybody a little more time to pile in here, and then we'll dive into this Barbarian video. I did also see, I put out a video covering all the subclasses. Most of us know what's going on, so put that out there. Some people have actually revealed the character sheet, which I've already seen, but because it's now been officially revealed, I will go ahead and make a video on the character sheet. There is some tweaks. I kind of like it. Some people have an issue with some of the design, so we could dive into that. Or maybe we'll just kind of put a marker in this and then just kind of make it a live stream separate kind of thing where we'll like stop the Barbarian live stream and then do a character sheet thing. So yeah, I know about that as well. Chuvarova, there's definitely some stuff that I also can point out that is different, or that I was able to see are different. But again, getting early access to the player's handbook comes with an NDA and an embargo about what kind of things you're able to discuss. So erring on the side of caution, I'm not bringing any of that stuff up, just to be safe. But we will have, our embargo ends, I think, almost a full month prior to the actual physical release of the books. Even the early access, I think even a full month prior to early access of on like D&D Beyond. So I believe in early August, or maybe it's mid-August, it might be mid-August, the embargo ends and we are able to release content. So be on the lookout for that. Oh, another thing, I don't think this violates anything that I'll say. So, several of us, as you know, people have been making videos or making comments that they got early access to the player's handbook. We did also receive an email that, like, we're gonna get another version of it, and, like, to delete the current version we have and go off of the newer version. Which I'm assuming may have had some tweaks, which possibly may even invalidate the point about the video. People saying that some aspects in the videos are misspoken because the version of the player's handbook that they have differs from what was said in the video. I wouldn't be surprised if this updated version of this might fix what those issues are. Because, yeah, I did notice some discrepancies, but the fact that we know we're going to get like an updated, quote, more final version may answer why people are mentioning that they're seeing discrepancies between the two. So I don't think I think that's actually was part of what we received, because those of us who got early access, it's all digital versions. Um, and I think it basically said like the final version is like basically it is off to the printer now. So like they're gonna send us the updated version that is the quote final one that will be available on the page. So that we have not received yet. We were informed about a week ago that that'll be coming in the coming weeks, but that it also shouldn't impact our videos or content we want to make surrounding the book. In my mind, though, if the fact that people are already calling out discrepancies, I'm glad I didn't film a whole bunch of stuff in the tank to have it ready to go, to then find out that that stuff has since been updated, and then I would need to go reshoot it. Yeah. Anyway, that's just a little peek behind the curtain as to what's going on in the content creator world of things. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this Barbarian video. I hope you're having a great Friday and have a great weekend set up ahead of you here. Let's go ahead. Oops, that's not what you guys want. We got to come over here. And, oops. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump to the video. So, no. Okay, hang on. Let me address this. We'll come out and say it. There's no problem with the books. People online who have received early copies of the Player's Handbook have started to denote that there are discrepancies in what is said in these videos by Jeremy Crawford versus what they have in the digital PDF early access copy that they have. And that is true, right? I can attest that there have been things said in these videos that differ from the early access copy that I myself have as well. Now, here's the thing. We received news that we will be getting more final versions of these in the coming weeks. So people complaining about, or at least drawing attention to the fact that there are discrepancies from what's said in the video versus what is in the early access copy that they have, may not ultimately be the case. Also consider that the WotC team, if it ends up being like that the video was wrong and the book, that the early access copy was correct, it might just be because of the fact that they've been living in so many different iterations of these things. But I also figure, like, if you realize that some one of those was wrong, you probably would have reshot that segment of the video so that what you're saying is truthful. So my assumptions are the final versions that are going to the printers, which is happening like right now from the sounds of it, the final PDF that we'll be receiving in the next couple of weeks or so, will likely address those. Yes, I agree. I think they are the pre-printer versions. They were what they had access to when we received them a couple weeks ago. And I think the final versions going to the printer are the ones that we'll be receiving, which will also likely be essentially what the digital D&D Beyond copy will be, supposedly in the next couple of weeks. So, that doesn't really affect what we're talking about. We're not talking about like drastic changes here. And again, I haven't watched a Barbarian video yet, so I can't compare the two. But like, basically, I'm assuming what we're seeing here is like duration changes, like something that was 10 minutes is an hour, or something that was like an hour might be a day, or 8 hours, or things like that. Like little changes that are better quality of life for you as the player. Little tweaks, maybe we heard it yesterday a lot with the paladin, where they had said like certain abilities were as part of the attack you choose to use the ability, and in like the Unearthed Arcana it was a bonus action. So maybe there are some things in the early print versions that some of us have that had things being activated as a bonus action, and they've maybe shifted in the final version to those being just like as part of the attack. That wouldn't surprise me. That's the kind of level of tweaks that I think that we're going to see that would be the difference between what we have now and what we will ultimately receive in a few weeks. How closely have I looked at the copy I've received? I've read it front to back twice. So it is... It is a mental gymnastics exercise to do these videos where we're reacting to the video just a little peek behind the curtain on that too. But we do get more insight into things. And honestly, I read it front to back, but like I lost a lot of that. It was late at night. Some of that just went out my head, one in one ear, out the other. So I'm just I'm remembering that that's a thing when I watch these videos. So let's do the Barbarian. That's what we were here to do. Let's dive in.
Our friend who loves to launch into a rage and charge into battle. So first off, the Barbarian, like several of the other classes that focus on weapon use, now gets weapon mastery at first level. So just as weapon mastery transforms how the fighter plays and the rogue plays and others, it's going to transform how the Barbarian plays depending on which mastery properties the Barbarian player decides to unlock for their Barbarian.
I love making Goliath
guessing many Barbarians are going to be cleaving quite a bit.
Yes.
But there are also other really tasty options for the Barbarian who wants to take their weapon and just wreak havoc. Now, there's more. We at first level have also made it easier for Barbarians to maintain their rage.
Yeah.
Any of us who've play Barbarians and love playing them know sometimes the complexity of, can I keep my rage going? And with that in mind, we've made it so that if there's no one nearby, no enemy nearby that you can attack to keep your rage going, you now have the option of either forcing an enemy to make a saving throw with one of your abilities. This, by the way, is a nice boon for Dragonborn Barbarians who can keep now their rage going by using their breath weapon, because
that's a really interesting. So I thought it was a saving throw for Barbarian-based abilities. This is something I hadn't thought of. It's just forcing them to make a saving throw. And I can't remember if the newest landed on grapple rules have it be a saving throw. Because if that's the case, then like grappling somebody could allow you to keep your rage going. But the fact that you could burn one of your attacks to do your Dragonborn breath weapon, forcing a saving throw, which is pretty cool that you could force the saving throw from a breath weapon to keep the rage going, which is pretty sweet. Dramatic timing. I've asked WotC what I can say and what I can't say, and I have not heard back. So I will not be commenting one way or another on the book that I have received, just for the sakes of me literally asking them, how much am I allowed to say that I love it? Am I allowed to say that I hate it? Like, what kind of leeway am I allowed to provide? And I was not given an answer. I don't know if I'll get one either. What I will say is that the art that you're seeing in a lot of these videos is a fraction of the art in the final book, and the art is just banger after banger.
Forces people to make saving throws.
Oh, nice.
But even better, you also have the fallback option now as a Barbarian of simply burning your bonus action once your rage is going to keep the rage, its fires blazing as you continue the battle.
And that is such a simple thing that they changed. And that's really, again, going in line with this streamlined concept that we're talking about, right? It's so simple to do that, and it just makes so much more sense. Like, yeah, you use your bonus action to activate the rage. And sure, you might have other uses for your bonus action on your turn, possibly even in the Barbarian class. But the fact that I can just burn my bonus action to maintain my rage for longer, just so that I can keep doing the thing that makes my class unique more frequently, is huge. And I think they're going to talk about it here, but I believe they also extended the rage time limit from a minute to 10 minutes, which is huge because now it actually has potential to be useful outside of combat for social encounters or other utility exploration things.
Thinking here was that since we allow you to activate the rage with a bonus action, why not allow you to keep it going with bonus actions?
This has also been core to a lot of the design philosophy in the book of, this is the identity of this class or this subclass. Why not allow you an easier path towards that?
Exactly what I was saying.
Absolutely. In every case, we want to take what is special about a class, protect it, amplify it, and see if there are new ways we can allow you to engage with your class features and feel like, in each case, you are the most archetypal version of your class.
And I gotta say, you know, I think this is, and listen, you all know me. You know what goes on, what I've done here on the channel, my thoughts on WotC, and my willingness to call them out. Look no further than, I think it's Unearthed Arcana 7 or 8, where I basically was just like, the monk sucks, and all of my comments are like, oh my god, you're so negative. How can you be like this? Why are you like this? You like, don't you just hate them because they're WotC? Because you can't please the internet and people just come in one way or the other. So I don't have like an inborn love for WotC. Do I love Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, I do. And the reason I bring this up is it does feel like the people behind the game, which again, we do have to recognize that the corporate side of things and the game designers are separate entities, regardless of how you feel about what WotC is doing and what Hasbro is doing ultimately. The designers at D&D probably, I'm assuming, have almost nothing to do with any of the shitty decisions that we've seen have been made. But it's clear that the designers are passionate about this game. And I do ultimately believe, I know there was discourse on this at one point, that they're not listening to the feedback at all. It does appear to me that they are, in fact, listening to the feedback that players have, that fans of the game have. Look no further than the change to potions becoming a bonus action, because that's what everybody does, clearly is showing there's some interest in people watching videos and taking an interest on what people have to say about the game, and recognizing that so many people are like, I'm a barbarian, I rage, that's my thing. And then they're like, you know what? Let's do a little bit of tweaks and quality of life improvements to make sure you can do your thing, the thing that makes you you, as often as you can without it being, you know, totally unbalanced, but let you have more means to do that. That's, again, like, we're going to talk about it when they get to brutal critical changes. Why should I tie up 2 different levels worth of class features in a 5% chance of triggering on a random roll? Whereas I could give you something that will give you just boosted damage guaranteed, which ultimately is the benefit that you want to get from brutal critical anyway, and just like give you the agency that you want. You want to do more damage? Here's a thing that lets you do more damage, instead of having to like hope and swing for the fences on that natural 20. There's so much of that baked into the design of all of these things. Like, yeah, just let them do it. Let them do it more. Let them have more fun. Let them do the thing more. Give that something else so it's more viable. And you'll see that pretty much across the board. Again, we talked about Paladins yesterday. Not going to talk about that again today. But other than that, the general consensus, because I mean, the Unearthed Arcana, like I said, is very close to what I think we're going to see in the final version of the book. And it sounds like it's pretty much echoed very heavily here in these videos. If you liked what was in the Unearthed Arcana, the most recent version for all the classes, seems like you're probably going to like the final printed book. And then again, there have been changes, as we've denoted, from yesterday and the day before, but either way, let's keep going.
So with that in mind, barbarians get even more. At level 2 in Danger Sense, we've now made it so that you no longer have to see the source of danger to benefit from this feature. And the only thing that turns Danger Sense off now is being incapacitated. We really wanted to lean in harder to the barbarian having this preternatural sense of danger, and whether the barbarian sees it or not, they get, you know, it's almost like their spider sense, something wrong is about to happen.
Right.
Again, another simple tweak, right? Changing Danger Sense to just be advantage on dexterity saving throws as long as you're not incapacitated is so much easier to understand and function. Especially, also, remember, we have to consider in all of this, whether you want to or not, consider that you are... you have to look at new players, right? That's something that a lot of people always look at as like veteran players. Okay, sorry. That if you're veteran players, like, it probably doesn't matter. But there are new players out there, and there are new people coming to the game every single day. And as such, the game needs to read easily for them. So why add this weird caveat that like Danger Sense works on things that you can see, whereas it's supposed to be a sense. I mean, yes, sight is a sense, but I like this concept of it being more like a spider sense. You just have advantage on dexterity saving throws, period, as long as you're not incapacitated, right? That just makes sense. I think you automatically fail dexterity saving throws if you're incapacitated anyway. I might be wrong on that, but changing it from effects that you can see to just advantage, like when you call it something like that, effects that you can see, it seems like it's almost a passive, an active thing that you need to utilize, whereas it's basically a passive feature. And in just changing that wording to just be advantage on dexterity saving throws clears so much of that confusion up, in my opinion. And I think that is a very smooth little design tweak.
We've also made it so that barbarians can now participate more meaningfully in non-combat situations with a brand new feature at level 3 called Primal Knowledge.
Yeah.
I think this wasn't on Tasha's Cauldron, but they're doing this too. You saw it on the fighter heavily. We talked about that. Giving them primarily the one class that has like, I hit stuff and I hit stuff good. Give them other things that are like, they used to call them ribbons, was a term they used to use, which was like a cool, ribbons is usually more reserved for subclass, like a cool, where you'll get like a fluff kind of flavor ability at one level, but you'll also get like a mechanical one, giving people things that they can use in outside of just combat scenarios. Because again, not every game will have a combat every session. Some might have 4, some might have 0. But also, then the barbarian might feel like, oh, I don't really have anything to add to this, so I'm just going to go do whatever, drink at the bar, or just like, honestly, maybe I'll just miss next session if all we're going to do is shop. Now you might have something going for you here.
Yeah, I love this.
And I'm so glad to hear that. We had a lot of fun designing it. We had a different version of Primal Knowledge in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So even though the name has appeared before, the feature itself is actually a totally new feature in the new player's handbook that now allows you as a barbarian, while your rage is going, to make certain ability checks that use particular skills and make those checks using strength, regardless of what the normal ability is for those particular ability checks. So, looking at the list, that means that you could make an intimidation check, a stealth check, a persuasion check, and there's a curated list of skills that this ability applies to, that as long as your rage is going, you can make those ability checks as strength checks. And what's going on here narratively is that the barbarian is tapping into their primal power to fuel their effectiveness in whatever that particular endeavor is. So if people are trying to wrap their head around, how is the barbarian using strength and persuasion? Just keep in mind, this is going on during their rage, and their rage always involves them tapping into this deep well of primal power. And it is effectively a supernatural ability that is transforming how they are making these ability checks.
I love it because, how is strength factoring into this? Well, it could be your presence, the enormity of you, or like the presence that you generate when you are raging. You can sometimes feel that, like almost like an aura. And that could be why the persuasion works. Intimidation is pretty easy to figure out. Like someone is very mad. Or when it comes to stealth, the creepy thing that I think of is when you're so strong, it requires little effort to move. When you think of a certain giant spider in a movie, and it's a hulking mass of giant spider, and it has no sound. There's nothing scarier than something that's big and bulky that you can't hear. I hate that.
You are really getting what we're putting down, because the idea is exactly that the barbarian, while their rage is going, has so much control over their own selves. Because remember, while a barbarian is raging, they not only deal more damage, they have advantage on their strength checks, they have resistance to a whole lot of damage. So it is a kind of transformation when a barbarian enters their rage. And Primal Knowledge is a new way for us to express that. And it means that rage now is relevant even in the masquerade ball. That before, rage was only useful when the barbarian wanted to destroy something. Well, now the barbarian can also tap into their primal power to give themselves a presence, a control that will assist them in other situations as well.
That's perfect.
And again, this is that point that, like, rage, while it is called rage, want to very clearly use that as an opportunity to distinguish that you do not have to be a mindless idiot when you go into a rage. Your rage can be tactical. I'm going to give Todd a favor and not try to like have
I love this.
There we go. Give him a better face there for the freeze frame. But yeah, you don't have to be a mindless idiot who's just like, I gotta destroy everything. You can play that, obviously, if that's what you want to do. That's up to you. That's your role play decision. But the fact that we're talking about that this rage is less of just getting so angry that you're strong and more of tapping into a innate primal power to give you strength means that you could be calculating in your rage, which factors into some of this stuff here. Yeah, I agree. Somebody brought it up here in the chat. We were memeing on it pretty hard about the strength sneak or the strength perception check. But you know what? I'm fine. I don't need things to make sense to me perfectly roleplay wise. Mechanics are mechanics, and I can get behind that. The other thing that you need to consider is you're now making all of those checks at advantage, right? Because barbarians get advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. If you can use strength for persuasion or perception or stealth, that makes it a strength check. Therefore, you are now making that check with advantage for the length of your rage. You could be the party face as the barbarian. If persuasion is indeed on that list, you could guarantee that you will make all of your checks with advantage as long as you have a rage available, and probably are going to have a pretty good strength anyway. So even if you're not proficient in persuasion checks, normally, your rage persuasion might make you better fundamentally, mechanically, because of the advantage than anybody else in the party. And that's just a funny ass concept to me. The traditional concept of the barbarian being like, oh, I've got this. Go into the party and just be like, oh, yes, and just constantly bonus actioning for 10 minutes, keeping up your rage and be like, I am the most persuasive barbarian you will ever meet. Or you don't even have to play up the fact that you are a barbarian, but the fact that you could just bowl over social encounters like this. Like, you could be a better trap finder than the rogue in theory because you can just snag constant advantage on perception checks. So many fun little goofy things you can do with this, and I like it. It's weird. It might have a hard time with people wrapping their head around it mechanically, and I understand. I respect your decision to be confused by that, but I'm just going to move by and consider that it is still a game, and that's a mechanic that's in the game. So maybe your DM will say, explain to me how this works because they want you to role play it out. Or if you play with a DM who just plays by the books with the rules, doesn't really dive too much into the implications behind them, then you're just doing better at a bunch of stuff you were not doing better at before. Let's see. Yeah, don't do it. Next to horny bard, dumb barbarian is the most done over. Yeah, it is a very overdone trope. I agree. Channel animals. I respect your decision to be confused. Yeah, I know. A terrifying smile for persuasion is funny and frightening. Yeah. So, anyway, let's keep going.
Primal Knowledge is actually one of my favorite things that we've done in the Barbarian, because I love playing this class, and I really like the idea of allowing Barbarians to tap into their primary feature and feel like it's benefiting them in every adventuring context.
Yeah.
And the cherry on top is this feature also gives the Barbarian another skill proficiency, because we wanted the Barbarian to feel even more well-rounded in terms of their capabilities.
Perfect.
And we talked about this a little bit, I think, when we originally mentioned it. Like, while you could, I mean, if you really want to nitpick this, you could try to find ways that it won't work. But if you really think about it, there are ways that it could work, right? Like, you could be somebody with just, like, so much power that you have that persuasion ability. So let's, like, talk about somebody like Mike Tyson, right? Maybe not the most persuasive person, potentially, but he's a terrifying human being with strength that just, like, it's absolutely terrifying to be in the room with this man. And he's so strong and so dangerous that if he were to ask you, like, hey, man, can you go get me a Gatorade out of that fridge over there? And like in a normal situation, you'd be like, no, screw you, go get your own Gatorade. But he persuaded you to do it because of his sheer intimidation factor. You're so scared that he was asking you nicely, could you go do this thing? And you were like, yeah, I'll go do it, which was, again, falling more in the line of persuasion because you're just so terrified of their enormity and their strength and their power that, like, yeah, all right, sure, buddy, whatever you need. And that, it makes sense if you really, there are ways you can explain a lot of this way. The Shelob kind of thing with, like, this scary big spider that's super strong. There are ways you can make these work depending on how you want to go about it.
So we also have a brand new feature at level 7 called Instinctive Pounce. And what this allows the Barbarian to do is leap forward or backward or whatever direction the Barbarian wants when activating their rage. When we get up to level 9, we get to one of those new features that gives the Barbarian a new way to use one of their core features. And this is a theme we've already touched on in talking about the fighter and the rogue, of us looking for ways to give different classes new ways to use their core shtick. And so Brutal Strike is a new feature that replaces the old Brutal Critical. Brutal Critical in the past did not score particularly well in satisfaction surveys, and also, unfortunately, sometimes never came up for unlucky Barbarian players who almost never crit. And so for us, it was really begging for replacement, and that's why we've replaced it with Brutal Strike. And what Brutal Strike allows the Barbarian to do is if...
Yeah, the game verse, I'll answer it too. Yeah, I got it too. I'm going to answer this again because it's going to keep coming up in this video. Yes, I also have the early access book, the one that everybody else has, but we also received an email from WotC stating that a more final version of this PDF that we all received will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, meaning that there is potential for tweaks and adjustments in this newer PDF that we have not received yet. So that may be why what we're talking about, because we also don't know when these videos were filmed, right? Consider that too. They could have filmed it today, probably not, but the fact that we know that a newer book is coming in the next couple of weeks, which is the final printer version, those tweaks might have been small things. And honestly, adding persuasion into that section of the Barbarian, that's a small tweak. It's like a massive change to things. So that might have been something that they might have decided, hey, we're going to add persuasion into whatever that ability is called, primal knowledge. And like, again, I don't know. I haven't looked at my copy to be able to comment one way or another if that's the case, but people are saying that that's what's been said out there. So that might be the case, is that they made that call at the last minute to make that change, and that the final version that we'll get in the near future will in fact replicate that in in that PDF, which will likely be is the one that's going to the printers as well.
If they are using their Reckless Attack feature, which they still have from their 2014 version, if they're fighting recklessly, you can forego the advantage on your own attack roll, so you're still accepting everyone else has advantage to hit you,
Okay.
to deal even more damage if you manage to hit, and in addition, add on an additional effect. And
this is what we saw in the Unearthed Arcana. I like this a lot. It's still risk-reward, right? You're taking the risk of giving the enemies advantage on attack rolls against you, but the reward of possibly getting a chunk of more damage and an effect. And we're going to talk about this because I have some insight, and I think we're at the point now where I can talk about a conversation I had with Jeremy Crawford at Gen Con last year after we get through this bit here in the video.
So we have several effects you can add on that allow you to push someone back and follow them. Also, you can slow someone down. And then at higher level, we give you other ways that you can use Brutal Strike, and the extra damage at higher level goes up. Now, probably the wheels that are turning in your head is this isn't only a cool way to really maximize reckless attacking, it's also a way to combo with your weapon masteries.
Yeah.
So the Barbarian can
Yes,
not
there it
only
is.
start using these cool new effects when they're using their reckless attack, they can also create some truly devastating combinations by combining several of these effects with whatever masteries they currently have unlocked.
Again, if you want to be very successful at pushing people back, you're using a great club, use weapon mastery on that to push people back, and then on top of that, as a barbarian, you're pushing them back, all with that one attack.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Correct.
Yes, and it is meant to be a lot.
Yeah.
So we also, in the core class, have improved Relentless Rage. This was a feature that barbarians had before that helped them stay in the fight when dropped to 0 hit points. But in its previous design, it was far too easy for the barbarian to bounce back, but have so few hit points that a monster could then just drop them again.
Yeah.
And so all of the features in the player's handbook that are like this, because there are several different classes, subclasses, and even species in the case of the orc that have a feature like this of sort of dodging death. We have looked at all of them and made it so that they are a bit more effective than they were before, so that we can lessen the likelihood that you will, again, dodge death only, basically dodge one, and as you're moving, get hit by another because you came back with so few hit points. Now, of course, there's still the risk that you will come back, and particularly if the monsters really have it out for your character, that they will drop you again. But we've, again, made it so that it is not so easy for that to happen.
So let's move on to the barbarian subclasses.
Yeah, so we have a brand new subclass in the form of the Path of the World Tree, and
This was fully detailed. I think the Dungeon Dudes did a video on this.
then we have the Path of the Berserker returning, as well as the Path of the Wild Heart, formerly known as the Path of the Totem Warrior. And then we
Changed to match the subclass name from Baldur's Gate 3.
also have the Path of the Zealot, a subclass that originally appeared in Xanathar's Guide to Everything and has been transformed in its migration from that book to this book. Should we start with the Berserker?
Yeah, it's tried and true and the most barbarian.
Yeah, so the Berserker is the classic barbarian subclass. Now, despite that fact, it was also a pretty low satisfaction subclass in the past, largely because its main ability, Frenzy, forced the barbarian to gain levels of exhaustion, which made people often hesitant to use their subclass's main ability. So when we returned to the Berserker for this book, our main goal was redesigning Frenzy, that we need to make it so that this feature feels fun to use and will make people excited to have this subclass. And thankfully, through the Unearthed Arcana process, we got to a place where people who were participating in that process gave the thumbs up and said, yes, the new Frenzy is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, this subclass is terrifying.
Yes, it's supposed to be. And really at its heart, Frenzy, just like the new Brutal Strike in the base class, is now building on core features, and in this case, again, Reckless Attack. That if you are a Berserker and you are using Reckless Attack, this now allows you, the Frenzy feature, to deal more damage once per turn, and it does not cause you to get exhausted while doing it. The trade-off, as with Brutal Strike, is, again, whenever you're using Reckless Attack, it means other people have advantage to hit you. But that is kind of a bread and butter for the whole barbarian experience. The
Barbarian experience is literally risk and reward.
Exactly.
So,
and we've designed the whole class that way. It's about, how much are you willing to take for some spectacular feats of martial prowess and whatever else you're doing with your rage and your class abilities. But that wasn't the only thing we improved. We also, in the Mindless Rage feature, we made it so that the charmed and frightened conditions aren't just suppressed by that feature, they're now ended by it. So the Berserker...
So much better. Right? Nothing made less sense to me that you raged and were able to shake off the frighten or charm, and then your rage ends and you're like, whoop, yep, right back to it. No problem. So much cleaner to just end the effect.
Berserker can now just say nope to being charmed or frightened because, again, their rage is just that powerful. And then we also took the Berserker's retaliation ability that used to be at 14th level and moved it down to 10th level because we wanted you to have that fun of doing retaliatory strikes sooner in your barbarian career. And then we took Intimidating Presence, which used to be at 10th level, we moved it up to 14th, and we didn't just move it up, we also made it way more powerful.
Yeah.
Previously, Intimidating Presence had you target just one creature and try to freak them out. Now, in contrast, it's as many creatures as you want within 30 feet of you, and it's just a bonus action to do it.
Perfect.
As you try to strike terror into a bunch of creatures around you, and because it's just a bonus action, it means you can also still do your attacks or whatever else you're doing with your action on your turn. All of these revisions combined make the Berserker an extremely formidable subclass, and I think now really earns its place as the iconic subclass for the Barbarian.
That brings us to the Path of the Wild Heart.
Path of the Wild Heart is a beloved subclass, again, formerly called the Path of the Totem Warrior. It continues to have its associations with different animal spirits, but we've taken those beloved pieces and given the Barbarian player who has this subclass even more flexibility than before. In 2014, when you got the 3 different features in this subclass, where you chose an animal and the benefit associated with it, that was pretty much it. But we've now made it so that for 2 of these features, you get to choose the animal every time you activate your rage. And then the other feature that gives you a more sort of always-on kind of ability that's not connected to your rage, you get to choose the animal associated with that feature every time you finish a long rest. We wanted to do this not only to give the player more choice points as they're playing a Wild Heart, but we also wanted you to be able to lean deeper into this fantasy of connecting with these different primal spirits. Because we felt before you were kind of, well, I made this choice, but I never do again.
Yeah.
And we really want you to have this feeling of like, today I'm communicating with the bear.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I might be communicating with the eagle, or with the lion, or with the ram. We also changed the animal names because we wanted to make it clear that these choices are not connected to each other. In the 2014 Player's Handbook,
big one. A lot of people had this.
We told you that if you chose, for instance, bear for one of the features, you were not required to choose bear for the other ones. But we found that even though we said that, people seeing the same animal name showing up often felt they had to pick the same one all the way through. So that's one of the reasons why we made it so that every single one of the animal options is now different. None of them repeat.
Perfect.
So that it's super duper clear. You're in no way having to pick the same animal all the way down, because now it's impossible to. Now in the process, in addition to giving more flexibility, we also modified several of the options. And the options at level 6 got particularly improved. We wanted to make them more useful to you in a typical adventure. So now, for instance, if you pick salmon at level 6, you get a swim speed. If you pick panther, you get a climb speed. And if you pick the owl, you're going to have really good dark vision. And we wanted you to get some features at this level that would help you a bit more, particularly in the exploration tier of the game.
And early on.
Yeah.
I am very excited for this new subclass. It is the Path of the World Tree, very much rooted in Idrisil and legends like that.
And the Path of the World Tree, like the Path of the Zealot, are both about the Barbarian turning their gaze outward to the broader cosmos. The Berserker and the Wild Heart both really lean into sort of the classic Barbarian fantasy of primal power either within oneself or within nature. Whereas the Path of the World Tree is about connecting to the World Tree that in D&D, just like in Norse mythology, connects to all of the worlds of the D&D multiverse. Or you can choose Path of the Zealot to connect to gods. And that's why I say those 2 subclasses are about, again, turning your gaze outward instead of inward or to nature. And the Path of the World Tree, because this isn't just a regular tree. This is not, a tree that's going to put just bark on you or something like that. This is the tree that connects one world to the other. That's why this path is especially magical among these paths. At the highest level of the subclass, it's going to allow the Barbarian to teleport as the Barbarian taps into that extra dimensional power of the tree. But it also gives the Barbarian ways to support their party by tapping into the vitality of this great tree to give themselves temporary hit points or give others temporary hit points.
It's a tank that makes everyone tank.
Exactly. Yeah. And that also gets at that this subclass can really fill a different role in a group than, say, the Berserker. The Berserker is really good at dishing out the hurt.
And I gotta say, I do like that when did that end the live stream? No. Did it? No. Okay, I just hit share by accident. My bad. Anyway, I was going to say that I like when a subclass. Some people don't like it when a subclass lets you like kind of gain access or kind of dabble in a different class. And I kind of like that when a subclass kind of lets you break the expectations. Like I'd say probably some of the best ones would be like the clerics, right? So a lot of people will see cleric and they automatically think healer, right? Like that's the go-to thing. But I feel like there's some really good, or at least there was, I don't like Tempest Cleric being again one of my favorites, but Light Domain is also another good one. A lot of people don't think of clerics necessarily. Now, if you've played a cleric or been in a party with a cleric that runs a certain way, then you might feel differently, but people will usually not associate a cleric being a heavy damage dealer. They usually think of them as healing and support. But I like being able to play like a subclass for a cleric that then gives me access to things that let me also deal damage. Again, like a light domain slinging fireball, for example, is huge. Tempest domain pulling down lightning bolts and things and maximizing damage is fantastic. So I like that aspect. And the fact that the World Tree Barbarian is giving you... I don't particularly, at least I haven't really paid too much attention to the final version. I remember the Unearthed Arcana one didn't really win me over. So perhaps this final version will, and it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I like that it has this option to help out the party and do things barbarians don't necessarily do. I mean, you could also make the argument that the Berserker could help the party just as much because taking out the threat is just as powerful as mitigating damage from the threat or getting away from it, right? The best defense is a good offense. If you just down the enemy, you don't really have to worry about how far away you can get. So, you know, both sides.
And really, any barbarian is,
Yeah.
but the Berserker especially leans into that. The Wild Heart can do that as well, but with the Wild Heart, you have a sort of menu of options to customize yourself. Path of the World Tree is really about leaning into Barbarian as tank, because not only can you give yourself and others resilience, move yourself and your friends at high level through teleportation, but you also have the really fun ability to use the roots of the World Tree to point to your foe and say, nope, you're not running away, come back. and that has been an especially fun thing to see in playtests, is this is the Barbarian who is kind of the worst enemy of the foe who wants to always run away.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
The Barbarian is just like, nope, come right back here.
Come over here ability, yeah.
Yes. And so
Nobody's
really
going to say, get over here,
able
really?
to,
Come on.
help their party. And on top of it, they also gain an ability to extend their reach with their melee weapons by having like the roots sort of extending from their weapons to make it even easier to hit someone far away. And the World Tree gives them the ability even to fiddle around with the mastery properties that they're using with their weapon strikes.
Very hard barbarian to escape. The hardest barbarian ever to escape.
Yes.
I can reach further. I can teleport to you. I can teleport you to me. Yeah.
Again, at high level, I can teleport my whole party to you. It's like, hello. The enemy thought they got away from the whole group, and no, the Path of the World Tree Barbarian is like, hi, here we all are.
So coming from Xanathar's Guide, we've kind of imported the Path of the Zealot. This is the very divine focused.
Yes. So Path of the Zealot is all about...
This got a lot of really good changes, and the Unearthed Arcana reflects that, and we'll hear what they have to say about it here, but it just, like, it had so many, like, weird features like that you can resurrect them without having to use a diamond kind of a thing. They've tweaked a lot of the features to make them more beneficial, more always on, similar to what we saw with Brutal Strikes.
Being a barbarian whose rage is rooted in the might of the gods. And this barbarian could choose a single god to serve, a whole pantheon, or just divine power itself. And this barbarian, just as they could in Xanathar's Guide, they have their Divine Fury, where they can deal extra damage, but we have done some redesign and enhancement in this subclass in the process of bringing it over from Xanathar's Guide. One of the big changes was to the Warrior of the Gods feature. which before basically just made it easier for you to be raised from the dead. And
Yeah.
I mean, just full disclosure, I am not a huge fan of when we make features that rely on you dying.
Yeah.
And so I had us change this feature.
Yeah.
And you
100%
now
agree.
get a pool of dice that you can use to heal yourself. It's almost like having your own version of lay on hands
Yeah.
as a barbarian, but unlike the paladin who can use that ability to heal others, this feature is a bit more selfish and is
Yeah.
all about keeping this barbarian in the fight as they channel divine power.
So much
and
nicer.
just keep going and going and going. We also took a look at the fanatical focus feature that the Zealot had before. It gave the Barbarian a reroll, and as we've done with several other reroll abilities in the new player's handbook, we now also give you a bonus to the reroll. We wanted to increase
Much
the
nicer.
likelihood that if you use this feature, that it will have a better chance of turning a failure into a success. Now, the area where we did the most redesign is in the capstone ability. At level 14, you now get Rage of the Gods, and it no longer requires you to drop to 0 hit points to gain its benefit, because this was,
Which is, again,
unfortunately,
another
the Zealot previously had 2 features that relied on you dropping,
Great.
or
Yeah.
or in this case, avoiding dropping to be activated. Now, instead, you can simply activate the Rage of the Gods when you activate your Rage, and it gives you various divine powers while it's active. You can fly for a certain amount of time, really tasty damage resistance, and you also now have the ability to thwart other people's deaths. So if other people are dying around you, you can use your reaction and you can try to save them. And so
Nice.
you now also can provide some of your survivability to others around you. And so again, there's a little bit of paladin here, but with a distinctively barbarian flavor, because it's still, at its heart, the Zealot is about dishing out a whole ton of hurt.
And that's it for the Barbarian.
That's it. I mean, it's a
lot.
It's a lot of new fun
Yeah.
for our Rage friends. And I can't wait to play a Barbarian again using these new options.
The new player.
All right. So, in the meantime, while we were sitting here, I did pull up the playtest. So, we have the base Barbarian here from playtest 8, which sounds like most of the stuff we're talking about is still here. Again, as mentioned, primal knowledge here says acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. Persuasion not listed there. Excuse me. Here's the brutal strike. This is what we talked about, right? If you use reckless attack, you can forgo advantage on the next attack roll you make on your turn with a strength-based attack. If that attack hits, the target takes an extra 1d10 damage of the same type dealt by the weapon, and you can do one of the things: forceful blow to push them back, hamstring to reduce their speed, and then at 13, you could do staggering blow to have them disadvantaged on the next saving throw it makes and can't make opportunity attacks, or sundering. The next attack roll made against that creature gains a bonus equal to your rage damage. And then at 17, the brutal strike damage goes up. Now, I spoke to Crawford in person at Gen Con and confirmed that you could do multiple brutal strikes in a turn. It says if you use reckless attack, you can forgo advantage on the next attack roll you make. So, like, in theory, if you have 2 attacks and you use brutal strike, one, at least that's how I was reading it then, and I'm a little, there was some alcohol involved, so bear with me when I think about what exactly was said. But the way I read it, and I think the way he confirmed it for me, was that if I ditch advantage on the next attack that I make, I could do the brutal strike. But if I have 2 attacks, I technically, when I activate reckless, have 2 attacks that use advantage. So in theory, I could do 1 brutal strike and then follow up with the next attack that should, in my opinion, still have advantage. Or I could ditch both of them to do 2 brutal strikes in a turn. At least that's how I read it, and I'm pretty sure he confirmed that for me. I just forgot to. It's been almost a whole year. And here we have World Tree. World Tree. Let's see. Temporary hit points equal to your barbarian level. At the start of your turn, when your rage is active, choose another creature within 10 feet. They get temporary hit points. Roll a number of d6 is equal to your rage damage bonus. That's pretty nice. Branches of the tree. We talked a little bit about that in the video. Whenever creature you can see starts its turn within 30 feet, you can use your reaction to summon spectral branches. The target must make a strength saving throw or be teleported to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of yourself. Just pulling them in. Again, Jeremy was talking about that when the people are running away, you pull them back. After the target teleports, you can reduce its speed to 0 until the end of the current turn. We have Battering Roots, where you can use this again a little more offensively. During your turn, while you wield a melee weapon with heavy or versatile, that might change because of just the changes to weapon mastery. Your reach with that weapon becomes 10 feet. And you could also activate Push or Topple, giving you more versatility in your weapon mastery. And then again, Travel along the tree. When you activate your rage and as a bonus action while active, you can teleport up to 60 feet. In addition, when you teleport using this feature, you could bring up to 6 willing creatures who are within 10 feet of you, and the range increases to 500 feet. Each creature teleports to an unoccupied space. You can teleport other creatures with you only once per rage. Again, a lot of cool versatility and uniqueness to it, so it definitely has some benefits. I like the aspect of the world tree, actually more reading it as however the second or third time. So I'm kind of coming around on that. So yeah, that's kind of our Barbarian video. This one was relatively straightforward. We didn't go off on too many tangents here, which was nice. We kind of just got through what we needed to get through. So pretty stoked about that. What do you guys think? Do you have any thoughts that you guys want to throw out there regarding the Barbarian before we kind of bring this live stream to a close? Let me see here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm tired. I've had a time past couple days, just so you know. Oh, hold on. We might have just found some merch in the meantime here. Oh, look at this. Okay, hang on. Let's go ahead. I found some things. All right, let's look. Dungeons and Dragons 2024 Player's Handbook and Character Sheets. This also releases on the 17th here. Inside the pockets of this lavishly illustrated folder are 50 double-sided character sheets for use in any 5th edition adventure. Each character sheet provides plenty of room. Stock up for the next 50 years of your D&D adventures today. Content: 50 redesigned double-sided character sheets. So they are going to just have a character sheet specific thing. Here's again for Wizards Play Store, and you can pre-order those sheets here on D&D Beyond, which also allows you to take a slightly closer look at what the final character sheet will look like. You can kind of see. I like it. The thing that I think people were complaining about was grouping the skills to the ability score. I think people were saying that they might have an issue distinguishing that, possibly. Oh, looks like Rogue is Monday. Did they release an article about, if somebody can link me or tell me where to go to show me what the rundown for next week is? I'd love to see what the classes and stuff they're planning to go over next week are. And as a reminder, we do plan to continue to do these videos, these live streams every day. The time is kind of going to be fluid based on work schedule and whatever else I have going on. So consider that. But other than that, we're going to attempt to do these videos every day. I kind of like the sheets. It's a little more minimalistic. So I like it. I'm actually playing the latest version of the playtest Rogue in a infrequent Tuesday night game that we sometimes stream when we go live. It hasn't happened in a minute, but you know, I'm playing the playtest version of the Rogue. I actually have a playtest Ranger, playtest Fighter, and playtest Rogue in that party trying things out to see. The fact is, unfortunately, that it's so infrequent, it's hard to make like playtest true decisions about like whether I like something or not. But the newest Rogue playtest did have the ability to like sacrifice sneak attack dice in favor of doing a cool thing, and that I did like. So yeah, this. Oh, we did get another email from Roll20 about their core rulebook. Yeah, we looked at theirs the other time. Maybe they're listening and they wanted to remind me that they have a new character sheet over there as well. Oh, can we zoom in? Oh, well, this is about as best I think as we're going to get. But the complaint that I saw people having was that they put the abilities, the skills, underneath the abilities. There was an old 5e sheet that had this as well. So, like, you can see strength, and here's athletics, intelligence, arcana, history, investigate, nature, whatever that last one is. I don't know. No, it's not really letting me zoom in at all, even with control. Oh, okay. We'll open a new tab. See if that works. Oh, okay, perfect. Nice call, folks. So here you can see we have a little bit of kind of stylistic designs here. Level, experience, our armor class, and whether we have a shield denoted at the top. I like that the hit points has current, temp, and max numbers, as well as hit dice spent and maximum. But yeah, you can see that the religion was the one I couldn't think of. All of these skills are underneath the ability score. They also have officially denoted that they want modifier to be the big number and score to be the little number, which will piss some people off, myself included. I like doing it the other way around. I don't know why. That's just what I like. But they're showcasing they want it the other way. Then again, we have equipment training proficiencies. Special traits, feats, a big section for class features, a smaller section for weapons and damage cantrips, and we've got all of our spells. And then a handful of things, appearance, language, equipment, etc. Yes, I agree. Big numbers in the big box. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the character sheet yet. Honestly, I play so frequently online nowadays, I don't really utilize a physical character sheet. It's just basically I'll need to know what version of this is replicated in D&D Beyond or another virtual tabletop that I'll be using. That's what'll obviously get more use for me than the actual paper character sheet nowadays. So, yeah, it's definitely a fun time in the news world. We'll be covering a lot of stuff. I do have other videos. I just got a massive package from WizKids today, and they did me a real solid. So you might have seen some of the stuff behind me. They actually sent me a couple last week a brick of the 50th anniversary D&D miniatures, as well as like the custom little red dragon. But then they sent me today every mini like unpackaged every mini that's in the 50th anniversary set. So I don't need a brick of rando minis if I have every mini in the set. So that means at some point, probably next week, I will be issuing a giveaway to give away that 50th anniversary brick just because I don't need it. Maybe one of you could do better with it. So next week, so Rogue, Warlock, Druid, Wizard, then Ranger. Oh, God, I can't wait to get to the Ranger because, well, I just have to. It's not a good. Can't wait to get there. Let's just say it like that. So, but yeah, I've had an absolute blast doing these live streams. I've also unrelated. So basically, I just give you guys a rundown. News related stuff and this kind of like talky discovery stuff. I'm going to try to save this stuff for YouTube, and then like gameplay gaming related stuff or like hobby kind of things I'm going to try to do on Twitch to separate. No comment, epic randomness. No, here's the thing, Chuvarova, none, which I was looking at some of the minis. They're the design of the monsters as they are currently, which are then ultimately immediately redesigned in the 2024 book. So like the gold dragon, for example, in that box is the 2014 version of the gold dragon. So yeah. I guess we'll see. Yeah, the minis are kind of seemingly almost outdated in some aspect because it's very much the classic what we know for the 5e Gold Dragon and not like all spindly. But I also think the way timelines work with WizKids is they probably got all of this stuff in like and approvals and all the sculpts and everything that needs to be made and all that probably like late last year, maybe early this year. So they put it out, but ultimately we're moving on to a new edition that totally redesigned what the dragons look like. That also, in theory, gets you to buy miniatures a second time. Because I mean, I would buy another gold dragon to have one that looked like the front cover. Yeah. Who did somebody put that out, Sarah? I don't know about the Sphinx. Did somebody reveal that? Was that Josiah? Did he do it? Who revealed it? Oh, yep, Josiah did. Judge your dad. So I have seen that, but I've seen that because of having early access to the book. But I'm glad that we can talk about it because it's freaking badass. I'm glad that he did the reveal on it because now it means we can talk about it. But it's awesome. I love the Sphinx of Wonder. I think it's such a cool concept. I'm gonna go pull up Josiah's video real quick because I'm wondering if he can show off if what he shows off. We're just gonna watch his video without sound real quick and just see. So we're gonna skip through it. This is a Josiah video.
2024 player's
Look at that
handbook than it
sweet
does
orange
in the one
shirt
we
he's
already
wearing.
have. But
It's
this
kinda
at least
yellow,
explains
yes.
why the Sphinx is in the player's
Yeah, they
handbook
have the
at
art,
all, and
right?
not just presumably
Celestial,
the upcoming
whatever
monster
it is.
manual. And speaking of the new monster manual, it's going to be the final. And next year, odd about this creature is that every Sphinx is created by a god or cosmic being to join its cosmic brethren. And the Sphinx of Wonder being a celestial isn't my only reason for thinking that, because trust me when I say, all cat murder
There
aside,
it is. You look at that thing in all its glory. Yeah, this thing is absolutely beautiful. I love it. They also have a lot of people have been revealing like different aspects of things, like different art pieces and whatnot. So here you can see again the Sphinx of Wonder and see most of its abilities and things. But yeah, it's very cool. I love it a lot, actually. It was one of the ones that caught me by surprise when I first learned about it. There's also somebody released the art of, we talked about it briefly where we saw the familiar, like the gnome or halfling familiar walking with her familiar cat in the wizard hat that has the prosthetic leg. Somebody released that art, which I thought was really cool. I really like that one as well. That is, in fact, what new stat blocks will look like, as you could tell. So if we go back to that. This is the design of a new stat block, a little more kind of condensed. So things make a little more sense, I think. As you can see here. Do I like the new stat block? I mean, realistically, stat block's a stat block. I don't really care what it looks like as long as I get the information that I need. I don't have like super strong opinions on the design of a stat block. As long as I can find the information I need to run the monster, if it's more streamlined in such a way that allows me to do it better, quicker, more efficiently, then that's what I would like. I prefer that over anything else. But if it's something that is just like, oh, do you prefer that they put the mod and the save on the same line? Doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, I'm not an artist, right? I'm a scientist. So like I have like I mean, I guess I create content and I run TTRPGs and stuff. So I guess you could consider that art to some extent. But fundamentally, I'm a scientist. I'm a woodworker. I'm a handyman. I'm a practical person, right? Like if it gets me from point A to point B, I don't care what it looks like as long as it does the job that I need it to do. So yeah, are people better at graphic design than me, thumbnail design, all this kind of shit? Yes, so much so. I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I know what I know how to do, and I just get, like I said, from point A to point B. Is it the smoothest ride there? Probably not. Do I need to possibly replace a couple parts on the way? Sure. Will I get to it eventually? Who knows? Maybe, or maybe I'll just buy a new car. I don't know. That's just kind of how it works with me. So, yeah. But yeah, I think I do also. I was talking a little bit before about how I am gonna start. You know, how I'm gonna use the Twitch for more of the gaming stuff. So once I finally do the thing where I switch over to this new PC, I'm actually gonna start streaming, like co-streaming essentially the Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign that I'm playing with on Captain Robert's channel on my Twitch channel. Just like kind of essentially just duplicating the stream on my channel as well, on top of our Fandelver and Below stuff. But some of you have asked, because I've been talking a lot about Destiny, because I do love Destiny 2, about like playing games with fans and stuff. So I might dive more into like the video game aspect. That's where I got my roots in streaming back in the day, was in video games. So I might give that a shot. I was playing Dead by Daylight last Friday, to like the Dungeons and Dragons content in Dead by Daylight. So that was something I hadn't done. So we're gonna try to stream some games and stuff at various points and invite folks along to come hang out. Whether that's it's, you know, it's tricky because you never know what you're gonna get when you invite people online. But anyway. Yeah, I had an absolute blast doing this. It feels good to make this much consistent content. I have so many more videos that I already want to make on other things. But, yeah. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Barbarian and the updates we talked about today in the comments down below. And I will see you all next time.